Hello everyone, welcome to Earth Archives. Today, we're going to talk about a music master who is both loved and hated, Richard Wagner. You may have heard of this name, perhaps because of his music or maybe because of the recent Wagner Group in Russia. However, today we will not only discuss the history behind the Wagner Group, but also delve into the musical achievements, controversies, and the mysteries surrounding this composer. The birth of the Wagner Group. Let's take the timeline to June 23, 2023, when the Russian Wagner mercenary group launched an attempted coup, marching towards Moscow. This mysterious private army, named after Wagner, drew the world's attention once again. The name and image of Wagner became the focus, and the implications of this event sparked a deeper exploration of Wagner's music, ideas, and the mysteries surrounding him. The creation of the Wagner Group can be traced back to 2013, with the core figure Dmitry Utkin, a former colonel who had participated in several conflicts before retiring and forming this private army. Utkin held great admiration for Richard Wagner's music and, inspired by it, named his army the Wagner Group. This choice not only highlighted Utkin's reverence for Wagner's music, but also reflected the extreme nationalism and ideology that Wagner represented, which had an influence on the society of that time. However, the members of this army were not purely music enthusiasts. Their actions were filled with political intent and military objectives. Their goal seemed not only to expand the influence of Wagner's music, but also to challenge Russia's domestic political power structure. This raises the question of why the name of a musician could so profoundly influence a country's political operations, even being utilized by some extremist factions. It may seem odd to some why a military group would be named after a composer, but this is not uncommon. In fact, the American mercenary organization, the Mozart Group, was also named after a composer, Mozart. While music and military may seem unrelated, to the founders of these military organizations, the name of a composer symbolizes a certain spirit or value. Wagner's childhood and musical journey. Richard Wagner, the great composer who profoundly influenced Western music history, was born on May 22, 1813, in Leipzig, Germany. Wagner was not born into a musical family, but rather one deeply passionate about theatrical arts. His father, Friedrich Wagner, originally intended to pursue a career in law, but eventually turned to the arts due to his strong interest in drama. Although his father did not work in music, his influence on Wagner's musical path was significant, laying the foundation for his later musical compositions. More importantly, Wagner's mother, Johanna, maintained a close friendship with playwright Ludwig Geyer, and this special relationship played an important role in shaping his artistic perception and creativity during his early years. However, Wagner's childhood was far from ideal. When he was just 6 years old, his father passed away from typhus, which was undoubtedly a great blow to the young Wagner. After that, he was raised by his mother and the playwright Geyer. Losing his father left Wagner's upbringing filled with loneliness and confusion. In particular, the relationship between his biological father and adoptive father became a significant emotional conflict for him, and he often felt uncertain and anxious about his own heritage. This experience undoubtedly laid the groundwork for his later, independent character, and he often maintained a rebellious attitude toward authority and tradition. As Wagner grew older, his musical talents began to emerge. During his youth, he briefly dabbled in the piano and through self-study, became deeply enamored with the music of Mozart and Beethoven. These works had a lasting influence on his later creative style. Beethoven's music, in particular, not only served as a guide for his artistic ideals, but also helped him develop a unique understanding of musical structure and emotional expression. In his youth, Wagner attempted to compose music for several operas, and although his academic performance was not outstanding and he often faced difficulties, his passion for music never faded. These early musical explorations formed the foundation for his future compositions. Despite his lack of academic excellence, this did not diminish Wagner's obsession and pursuit of music. His musical style gradually took shape and quickly showed his exceptional talent and creativity. Wagner's music was not only influenced by Beethoven, but also incorporated his deep understanding of theatrical arts, making his operatic works filled with intense dramatic and emotional tension. Wagner's life was full of challenges and difficulties, but these struggles also forged his tenacity, ultimately making him one of the most influential giants in the history of music. Wagner's artistic and philosophical influence. Wagner was not only a great musician, but also a profound thinker who integrated elements of philosophy, religion, and culture into his musical works, creating a grand and symbolically rich musical world. His operas were often not merely for entertainment, but carried deep philosophical and emotional content, particularly in relation to nationalism and German mythology, which became central themes in his compositions. Wagner's Der Ring der Nibelungen is one of his most representative works. Based on ancient Germanic hero legends, this opera uses a series of highly symbolic musical passages to depict the struggle between heroes, gods, and fate in the mythological story. The work, set against the backdrop of national heroism, deeply reflects Wagner's love for German history and culture, and expresses his strong identification with the German national spirit of the time. The deep nationalistic sentiment in these works resonated strongly within 19th-century German society. Germany was undergoing a period of political and cultural transformation, and Wagner's music provided a form of spiritual solace, especially in terms of strengthening German national pride. Wagner's operas, both in content and musical form, demonstrated respect and admiration for the foundational elements of German culture, which led to widespread praise of his works at the time. However, this intense nationalism also made Wagner's music a highly controversial subject. Particularly in some of his works, his extreme nationalism and racial superiority came to light, offering ideological support for the rise of Nazi Germany. Some of Wagner's statements and writings expressed an exclusionary attitude toward non-German cultures and Jews, and these extreme ideas were later exploited by the Nazi regime as part of their propaganda machine. During that time, Wagner's music was seen as the embodiment of German music, even being regarded by the Nazis as the official state music. This association deeply tied Wagner's music to Nazism and cast a heavy political shadow over the name and works of this great composer. The legacy of Richard Wagner's music and thought. Richard Wagner's music has had a profound impact on world music culture, both during his lifetime and after his death. As one of the most innovative composers in the history of opera, Wagner not only transformed the form of music, but also deeply influenced the structure and development of modern opera. His works broke the boundaries of traditional opera, closely integrating music, plot, and stage design, thereby creating a completely new performance model. In terms of opera orchestration, Wagner revolutionized the composition of the orchestra, incorporating more instruments into the music and elevating its expressiveness to unprecedented heights. This innovation made Wagner's music not only dramatic, but also full of limitless expressive possibilities, setting an example for future opera composers. Wagner's understanding of opera surpassed that of many of his contemporaries. He believed that opera was not just a combination of singing and performance, but a complete fusion of music, plot, and visual effects. This profound understanding allowed him to create masterpieces like The Ring of the Nibelung, which was not only a magnificent musical work, but also an artistic reinterpretation of Germanic ancient myths and heroic legends. The musical structure, linguistic style, and new interpretation of stage drama in these works solidified Wagner's irreplaceable position in the history of opera and deeply influenced subsequent music creation. However, Wagner's music also has a darker side. In works like The Ring of the Nibelung, he expressed strong nationalist sentiment and heroism. Wagner's admiration for Germanic ancient myths and legends imbued his works with national pride, resonating strongly within German society at the time. Especially in the late 19th century, as Germany achieved unification, Wagner's music became closely associated with contemporary nationalist sentiments. Yet, these intense national feelings were distorted and exploited after the rise of Nazi Germany. The Nazi Party and its leader, Hitler, were deeply influenced by Wagner's music and regarded his works as symbols of German culture. The Nazi regime not only promoted Wagner's music, but also used it as a propaganda tool to reinforce German nationalism and extreme nationalistic emotions. As a result, Wagner's name became closely linked with the crimes of the Nazis, and his music, to some extent, became a symbol of totalitarianism and racism. Although Wagner himself had no direct connection to the Nazi regime during his lifetime, his ideas and music were later co-opted within the political context, casting a heavy political shadow over his musical legacy. Wagner's contradictions and cultural legacy. The life story of Richard Wagner is undoubtedly filled with contradictions and conflicts. This musical master's achievements and controversies intertwine, making him one of the most controversial figures in music history. His life was both the pinnacle of musical creation and a dramatic clash of politics and ideology. In his works, we can feel the boundless artistic charm, the passionate melodies, and the highly dramatic musical language, all of which transport the audience into a world of fantasy and heroism. However, beneath these musical masterpieces, there also lies a shadow interwoven with the political emotions of both his time and the later era. When we listen to Wagner's music, we are not only appreciating his artistic innovations, but also engaging in a profound reflection on history. Wagner's musical achievements and controversies show us that the interplay between art, politics, and culture not only shaped the world of his time, but also deeply influences our understanding of today's world. This artistic legacy, with its light and shadow, forever reminds us that while we enjoy every great work, we should always remain alert and thoughtful about the deeper meanings behind them. Feel free to share your thoughts on Wagner in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you in the next episode.